Hello, I'm Dr. Jenny Andrus, and welcome to Joint Ventures. This is an OSC original podcast where we explore the latest medical headlines, news, and trends. And today I'm very excited to have an expert in cognitive behavioral therapy and pain, Dr. Andrew Martin.
Hi, I'm Dr. Martin.
Dr. Martin's a pain psychologist with us at Orthopedic and Spine Center. And so today we're going to be talking about the latest study and the biggest study ever on marijuana use and cognition. So we've got a few questions that people wanted to know about this study. So we can start with the first, which is really kind of what inspired the surge in interest in cannabis use. So pain obviously is difficult to treat and has been treated with a lot of different medications over the years. And opiates, of course, are very widely used for pain. The opiate epidemic happened. Thank you, pharma. And after the opiate epidemic, everyone got very, very scared about using opiates for chronic pain, of course, because we were all afraid we were going to cause addictions and opiate overdoses and deaths. And so marijuana seemed like, you can't really overdose on it easily. I mean, you can overdose on anything, but it's hard to overdose on marijuana. And when people do too much, they have some problems that could end up being hospitalized for, but not the problems with opiates, which is that you stop breathing and you die. So it's kind of a harm reduction strategy. And so we got all excited. We said, okay, if we can get rid of pain with marijuana, if we can get rid of some of the being high effect by changing dosing or something like that, and then didn't have to worry about overdose and death, then it would be a preferable thing. Obviously, that didn't work out all that great because we have this study, which was the largest study on marijuana and cognition, like 1,000 patients, and using functional MRI scans, looking at different avenues or different aspects of working memory, and finding that heavy routine marijuana use actually changes how your brain works. Yeah. So there's actually functional MRI changes in long-term use with cannabis. So we saw that even recent and long-term use changes how you actually think. And so that obviously is going to be a detrimental side effect that we didn't realize. So, then the question this begs the question, what is working memory anyway? Mm-hmm. Dr. Martin would be better to explain that.
So working memory is necessary for learning, paying attention, and signs of poor working memory can be going into a room and forgetting why we walked in there, forgetting where we parked our cars, or having trouble learning a new task. Or maybe we're having a conversation and we get lost in the conversation. We smile because that happens to all of us, especially as we age, but we do find it happens more with people who use cannabis long term. And that's a quality of life issue for a lot of reasons. One is our relationships. If your attention and focus and memory aren't working well, the interactions you have with your family and loved ones probably aren't that quality, not for you, not for them. So working memory is a pretty important quality of life issue.
But what if I said that my patient just wanted to use cannabis on the weekends to help with their pain, not when they're working? I mean, do they really need to be worried about a lot with that?
Right, yeah. So for a long time, cannabis has been advertised as, well, it's a safe thing, especially if used in moderation. But we know that there are working memory problems in the short term and even a little while after that with just immediate use. And we know that there are coordination, balance issues, or those difficulties of the concentration and memory I was talking about earlier. I don't know about you, but I've actually had patients whose chronic pain got worse because they had slips and falls while they were intoxicated. And so now they have more injuries, more chronic pain. So there's some risks even with short-term use.
Okay. Buzzkill. Definitely buzzkill on that one. All right. So, but then, when you look at the harm reduction model with this, okay, so we say, okay, still it's got these risks, but of course, when you're drunk, you have problems too, or intoxicated with alcohol. So what about addictive qualities? We all know someone who's had battled alcohol or opiate addiction or whatnot, and it seems like opiate addiction is so common now. Can you get addicted to cannabis?
Yeah, absolutely. But that's not well known. And again, that's part of our long-term belief that, oh, this is a harmless drug. It's all natural and it's okay. But yes, and not only can it be psychologically addictive, it can be physically addictive. And that means that you can build a tolerance. So it takes more and more of this substance to achieve the same effects. Or you can experience withdrawal symptoms where you stop using and then the mind and the body go a little haywire, sometimes to great discomfort for a long time. Now, cannabis use disorder is pretty easily treatable, and all you have to do is talk to your primary care or insurance to get some help for that. So yeah, there's addiction potential. It's recognized by the American Psychiatric Association and the World Health Organization.
Okay. But if so say a patient still wants to try it, because they've had a lot of side effects with other things and they still want to give this a try, okay?
Does it work?
Yeah,
right. Does it? That's everybody's question, right? Does it actually help? And the answer is yes and no. So there are studies that show that it can reduce pain a little bit in the short run. The problem is those same studies get the same results when they give people a sugar pill and say, this is going to help with your pain. They get the same results. So what's going on there is our pain is probably going down because of the belief that we're getting treatment, not because of the actual cannabis. When we think we're being helped, our nervous system calms down. Nervous system being that thing that deals with all of our pain and our pain signals. So when it's calm, it's coming out of fight or flight mode, so it stops staring down the pain or the threat, what it thinks is the threat, stops letting all these pain signals up into the brain. And so you get this feeling of pain going down. Mm-hmm. But it's not due to a substance, it's due to something you or your brain is doing to your nervous system.
Right. So the placebo effect, right? So what else? I know Dr. Martin really, he's an expert in the placebo effect and what it does. But so what else could we do then? Okay, we're not, all right, you took away the opiate, you said that was bad, you said the marijuana was bad. Placebo effect can't last forever. What else can I do to kind of dampen that nervous
something with
response?
Fewer risks, fewer side effects. Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. Well, once we discovered the placebo effect, scientists said, hey, we should probably study the placebo effect. It seems to have this effect on all these different problems, psychological and health-wise. So they started studying it, figured out, oh, okay, it's what it's doing to the nervous system, and said, well, we've known about some things that calm the nervous system down for 2,000 years, like mindfulness meditation out of Asia. And then we've learned a whole lot more lately. So they took all these things and they compiled them into a psychological treatment called cognitive therapy for chronic pain. And it takes about 10 sessions twice a week to learn all these skills, and you practice them in between sessions. And it has about a 70% success rate. So 70% of people who do cognitive therapy for chronic pain report their pain is reduced about as much as they took a narcotic.
50% or ish.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah. And they say they have fewer pain flare-ups where the pain gets a lot worse all of a sudden, and less emotional stress about whatever pain they're going to have to live with. And maybe most importantly, they report getting function back. They can do what they want to do, which is something you don't necessarily get with narcotics.
For sure.
Right.
For sure. That's the biggest hang up with narcotics. All right. So to recap our buzzkill, aptly named Joint Ventures podcast, marijuana impacts the way you think, and short-term and long-term use. Long-term use, we now have MRI scans showing it changes the way your brain functions. Everybody's got to make their own decisions, They have to risk and benefits for them, but I certainly could not at this stage tell a patient that marijuana was a safe option, particularly when it comes to cognition. It may be better in some ways than an opiate, but it's definitely not better in cognition. And there's a whole nother discussion to have about the effect of cardiovascular disease, which is outside of my lane a bit, but certainly is something that people need to be worried about, especially our older population. So thank you so much for joining us. It was awesome to have Dr. Martin with us today. And thank you again. Wishing you good health. See you soon. Bye-bye.
At Orthopedic and Spine Center, we're dedicated to providing the highest quality treatment using the most advanced technology available. Our fellowship-trained spine and interventional pain management physicians specialize in diagnosing painful conditions and offer minimally invasive interventions to complex spine surgeries. Our pain psychologist helps patients understand and reduce stress from chronic pain conditions. Our experienced physicians get you back to doing what you love. Call today for an appointment. Experience excellence at Orthopedic and Spine Center.